The impact of Russia's economic influence on political decision-making in NATO member states. In today's globalized world, countries' economic power and influence are just as important as their military strength. Russia, as one of the world's largest economies, has significant economic influence over many countries, including those that are members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. This influence has a significant impact on the political decision-making of these countries and can have serious implications for NATO's strength and stability. Russia's economic influence over NATO member states takes on many forms. One way Russia exerts its influence is through energy supplies. Many NATO countries, particularly in Europe, rely heavily on Russia for their energy needs. This dependence on Russian oil and gas gives Russia significant leverage over these countries and allows Russia to influence their policies and decisions. Another way Russia exerts its economic influence is through investments and financial ties. For example, Russia often invests heavily in the infrastructure, natural resources, and other industries of NATO member states. These investments give Russia significant leverage over these countries and can shape their policies and decisions in ways that benefit Russia. The impact of Russia's economic influence on political decision-making in NATO member states can be seen in many different areas. One area where this influence is particularly evident is in foreign policy. For example, Russia has a significant interest in maintaining influence in the Balkans and has been known to use economic leverage to influence the policies and decisions of NATO countries in the region. This can lead to countries making decisions that are not in the best interest of NATO as a whole. Another area where Russia's influence can be seen is in defense spending and military policy. Many NATO countries, particularly those in Europe, have historically underinvested in defense and relied on the United States for their security. However, Russia's aggressive actions in Ukraine and elsewhere in Eastern Europe have led to a renewed focus on defense spending among many NATO countries. This increased spending has the potential to make NATO stronger, but it also leaves these countries vulnerable to Russian economic pressure, which could ultimately impact their military decisions and capabilities. Perhaps the most significant impact of Russia's economic influence on political decision-making in NATO member states is on the organization's cohesion and stability. NATO is a collective defense alliance that depends on the unity and cooperation of its member states to be effective. When Russia is able to exert economic pressure on individual member states, it can undermine the organization's unity. This, in turn, can lead to a situation where NATO member states are not able to work together effectively to respond to threats from Russia or other actors. To combat the impact of Russia's economic influence on political decision-making in NATO member states, there are several steps that can be taken. One of the most important is for NATO countries to reduce their dependence on Russian energy supplies. This can be done through diversifying energy sources, investing in renewable energy, and supporting domestic energy production. Another important step is for NATO countries to be more vigilant in monitoring foreign investments and financial ties that could give Russia leverage over their policies and decisions. This includes investing in security and intelligence capabilities that can detect and prevent foreign interference in the country's affairs. Finally, NATO countries need to work together to develop a coordinated approach to dealing with Russian economic influence. This includes developing joint policies on issues such as defense spending, foreign investment, and energy cooperation, as well as working together to counter Russian propaganda and disinformation campaigns. In conclusion, Russia's economic influence over NATO member states has significant implications for the organization's cohesion and stability. By exerting pressure on individual member states, Russia can influence their policies and decisions in ways that are not always in NATO's best interest. To address this challenge, NATO countries must work together to reduce their dependence on Russian energy supplies, monitor and prevent foreign interference, and develop a coordinated approach to dealing with Russian economic influence. Only by working together can NATO member states effectively counter the impact of Russian economic influence on political decision-making.